What if everything you believe about dying is wrong? What if the moment you fear most is actually the most extraordinary thing that ever happens to you? Science has begun to uncover secrets hidden in the final heartbeat, moments when the brain surges with light, when people awaken from coma to say goodbye, when hearing lingers after silence. Death, it seems, is not an instant. It's a process, more mysterious and beautiful than we ever imagined. In this video, you'll discover what truly happens in the last 10 minutes of life, what the body feels, what the brain sees, and why peace replaces pain. From terminal lucidity to near-death experiences, from the sound of the final breath to the science of consciousness itself, everything you thought you knew is about to change. Stay with me until the end, because this isn't just about death, it's about what it means to be alive. If you're ready to see life and its ending through new eyes, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Because once you understand what really happens when we die, you'll never look at life the same way again. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? Just when the heart stops, when everything seems to fade, the brain suddenly lights up, like a firework in the night sky. Scientists have recorded surges of neural activity moments after clinical death, bursts so intense they resemble the patterns of heightened awareness or even deep meditation. Imagine that, the final seconds of life could be the most vivid moments you'll ever experience. But why does this happen? Some believe it's the brain's desperate last attempt to make sense of reality as oxygen fades away. Others suggest it's not desperation at all, but a kind of graceful exit, a flood of chemicals creating one last surge of clarity. In those brief seconds, your mind could be replaying every memory, every feeling, like a movie flashing before your eyes. And here's where it gets even stranger. Researchers have found similar brainwaves in people who report near-death experiences, the tunnel of light, the feeling of peace, the sense of leaving their bodies. It's as if the brain, in its final act, opens a door to somewhere else, or tricks you into believing it has. Nobody knows for sure. The mystery is what keeps both scientists and spiritual seekers awake at night. So, what really happens inside those final flashes? Is it pure biology, or the threshold of something beyond science? The answer might change the way you think about death and life itself. Everyone fears the same thing, the pain. The thought that your final moments might be filled with suffering is almost unbearable. But science says something completely different. As your body begins to shut down, the brain releases a cocktail of chemicals that act like nature's strongest painkillers. Endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine flood your system, wrapping your consciousness in calm. Doctors in palliative care witness this all the time. A patient in agony suddenly relaxes, their breathing slows, and peace settles over them. It's not medication, it's biology. The body itself begins to numb the nerves, lowering awareness, softening every sensation. It's almost as if nature designed a gentle exit ramp, not a crash. And when consciousness starts to fade, pain is replaced by something else, detachment. People who've had near-death experiences describe floating, peace, or silence. The body is no longer fighting. The mind drifts between awareness and release, entering what doctors call the threshold state. In that space, fear dissolves. So, what you've always imagined as suffering might actually be the brain's final gift, a quiet surrender. Death, it seems, isn't the monster we were taught to fear, it's more like falling asleep after a long, exhausting day. Time slows down. Breathing becomes shallow, irregular, almost like waves fading on a quiet shore. The body knows before the mind does. Blood pressure drops, the skin cools, and oxygen levels fall. The body starts its final act, a silent choreography it's rehearsed since birth, yet performs only once. Within minutes, the brain begins to prioritize survival, rerouting energy to the heart and lungs. Vision narrows, colors dim, edges blur. Some describe it as seeing through water. The heartbeat, once steady, turns erratic, like static between radio stations. It's not chaos, it's surrender. The body is letting go. Around the 5-minute mark, consciousness begins to drift. The mind detaches from the body's signals, pain fades, and time itself loses meaning. People in this phase often appear to be dreaming with their eyes open, whispering names, or reaching out to someone unseen. Doctors call it the transition zone. Others call it something far more profound. And then, silence. The heart stops, but the story doesn't end there. For several minutes, brain cells remain active, sending faint sparks, tiny echoes of who you were. Some scientists believe this may be when people see their life flash before their eyes. Others say it's when the soul realizes it's free. It sounds like a miracle, and in a way, it is. Someone who has been unresponsive for days, even weeks, suddenly opens their eyes. They smile, speak clearly, recognize family members, maybe even say goodbye. Doctors call this terminal lucidity, and it defies everything science thinks it knows about the brain. It's as if consciousness gets one last encore before the curtain falls. Families often describe these moments as breathtaking. Imagine sitting by a hospital bed, watching someone you love fade, and then, out of nowhere, they return. They ask for water, tell a joke, whisper I love you. It's real, vivid, and brief, usually lasting only hours before the final breath. But those few hours feel like a gift from beyond reason. Scientists still have no solid explanation. Some say it's a sudden burst of neurotransmitters, the brain's final surge before total shutdown. Others believe it's something deeper, the soul's last moment of clarity, preparing to let go. Whatever it is, the pattern is too consistent, too intentional, to ignore. Even skeptics admit something extraordinary happens. Maybe terminal lucidity isn't a glitch, but a farewell coded into our biology. A chance to finish what's left unsaid. To close the circle. And if that's true, then maybe death isn't an abrupt ending, but a moment of perfect understanding before everything goes quiet. There's a mystery nurses whisper about in every hospice ward. A patient holds on for days, their body frail, breath shallow, but they don't let go. Then a loved one walks in, a familiar voice says, I'm here, and within minutes, the person passes peacefully. It's as if the body itself was waiting for permission. Waiting for someone specific. Doctors have seen it too many times to call it coincidence. In medical charts, they write words like unexpected stability or delayed decline, but deep down, they know it's something more human than science can capture. The heart, somehow, listens for a reason to stop beating, and that reason is love. Psychologists suggest this happens because of deep emotional bonds. The brain, even in its final decline, can respond to powerful stimuli, a voice, a touch, a name. It triggers a short burst of adrenaline, a final spark that keeps the person alive just long enough to say goodbye. It's not strength or luck. It's purpose. And maybe that's the most poetic truth about dying. We don't always choose when we die, but sometimes we choose with whom. When that person arrives, the waiting ends. And in that final moment, there's no fear, only peace, as if the soul was simply waiting for the right hand to hold before letting go. Even when the eyes close, the heart slows, and the body seems unresponsive, something extraordinary lingers, hearing. Studies show it's the last sense to fade before death. Families often whisper final words, thinking they go unheard. But inside, the brain is still processing sound. Somewhere beneath the silence, the dying can hear you. In hospice rooms, nurses notice subtle reactions, a tear, a small breath, a faint smile, when loved ones speak softly. Even when consciousness seems gone, EEG scans reveal activity in the auditory cortex. The body may be shutting down, but the mind is still listening. It's as if the soul refuses to leave before hearing one last goodbye. Scientists believe this lingering awareness serves a purpose. The brain, even in decline, keeps listening to familiar voices as an anchor, a bridge between life and whatever comes next. It's not pain or confusion. It's presence. The human mind, at the edge of death, still reaches for connection. So if you ever find yourself beside someone who's slipping away, speak. Tell them what you need to say. Because even if they can't answer, they can still hear the sound of love, and sometimes, that's all they need to let go peacefully. The body doesn't leave without saying goodbye, it speaks in quiet, coded messages. 48 hours before death, subtle changes begin to unfold. Breathing becomes shallow, unpredictable, sometimes followed by long pauses. Hands and feet cool as the blood retreats to protect the heart and brain. The skin may turn pale or bluish, like the horizon before dawn. Energy flickers unpredictably. Some people become restless, as if trying to travel somewhere unseen. Others grow calm and distant, their gaze unfocused, not here, not gone, just between. Nurses call at the window. Families sense it too. They say, something's changing. It's not fear, it's the body preparing to cross over. Then comes the stillness. The appetite fades, the voice weakens, sleep deepens. The brain begins to release chemicals that ease anxiety and numb pain. The person drifts between worlds, half aware of whispers and touch. It's as if the body and soul are negotiating the final separation, one breath at a time. These signs aren't grim, they're sacred. The body isn't failing, it's finishing its work. It's the most natural process there is, the closing of one story before another begins. And if you know how to recognize these signs, you realize death isn't sudden. It's a slow, graceful letting go. When the heart flatlines, we imagine everything ends, silence, darkness, nothing. But science tells a different story. For several minutes after cardiac arrest, the brain remains active, firing electric signals like distant thunder after a storm. Researchers have recorded organized brain waves, patterns that suggest awareness may linger even after the body dies. In hospitals, some patients who were declared clinically dead later described hearing voices, feeling presence, even watching doctors from above. These accounts match what machines detected, bursts of brain activity seconds after the heart stopped. It's as if consciousness refuses to shut off instantly, clinging to the fading light of life. Neurologists believe this post-mortem awareness might explain near-death experiences, the tunnel of light, the life review, the sense of peace. When oxygen drops, the brain floods with chemicals, creating hyperreal visions that feel more vivid than reality itself. To the person inside, it's not dying, it's awakening. So maybe the line between life and death isn't as sharp as we think. The body stops, but the mind lingers, like an echo refusing to fade. And in those final minutes, perhaps we glimpse something science can measure, but not yet fully understand. It's a sound that can haunt families forever, a deep, rattling breath, sometimes called the death rattle. It echoes through quiet hospital rooms, making people believe their loved one is in pain. But here's the truth, they're not. That sound isn't suffering. It's simply the body's final rhythm, the lungs clearing what the person can no longer swallow or cough away. Doctors and nurses recognize it immediately. They know it doesn't mean distress, it means the body is letting go. The brain's reflexes fade, muscles relax, and air passes through mucus in the throat, creating that haunting gurgle. It may sound alarming, but the person is usually unconscious, unaware, and completely free from pain. Families often whisper, can they hear it? Are they scared? The answer is no. The dying brain is already far beyond physical discomfort. Oxygen levels are low, consciousness drifts, and natural chemicals in the body create calm. That sound isn't agony, it's the body's quiet signal that the journey is nearly complete. So when you hear it, don't think of it as horror. Think of it as the wind changing direction, a breath returning to where it began. It's not something to fear, but to understand. Because even in that sound, there's peace. Thousands of people have described it, the tunnel of light, the floating sensation, the overwhelming peace. They say they saw their life flash before their eyes, met loved ones, or felt completely weightless. These are near-death experiences, stories so consistent across cultures that they've become impossible to ignore. But science now says there may be more behind them than pure mystery. When the brain is starved of oxygen, it releases a storm of neurotransmitters, endorphins, serotonin, and DMT, the same molecule found in vivid dreams. These chemicals can trigger euphoria, visions, and an expanded sense of reality. Neurologists believe it's the brain's last attempt to make sense of chaos, turning dying into a dream of light, warmth, and love. But here's where it gets strange. EEG readings from people near death show brain activity more intense than during waking life. It's as if the mind, instead of shutting down, opens a door to something greater. Science can map the waves, but not the meaning. What's seen in those moments, the light, the peace, remains beyond full explanation. So maybe death isn't the end of consciousness, but a transformation of it. Maybe those tunnels of light aren't hallucinations, but the mind's first glimpse of something beyond the limits of flesh. The truth? Science is only beginning to understand what the soul seems to already know. So maybe death isn't a dark ending after all. Maybe it's a quiet return, a final symphony where the body, mind, and soul play their last notes in perfect harmony. The science we've explored doesn't just explain what happens when we die, it teaches us how to live. Every heartbeat, every word, every goodbye suddenly matters more. The truth is, the line between life and death isn't as sharp as we once believed. The brain keeps thinking, the heart keeps remembering, and love, somehow, lingers in the air. If we can accept that, maybe we can lose our fear. Maybe we can start living with the same peace people feel in their final moments. So now I'll ask you, what do you think happens after the last heartbeat? Do you believe consciousness fades or transforms? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them because your perspective might change someone's life tonight. If this video made you see death and life in a new way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because understanding death isn't about the end, it's about learning how to truly live before it comes.